Good morning and welcome to OptiPro Systems Mastercam 2023 General System Enhancements coverage. My name is Steven Kalinowski and I am a Mastercam Support Specialist here, and we're going to take a look at what's new for Mastercam 2023. Here we have some of the features that we're going to cover and jump into doing some demos on. Firstly, we're going to take a look at job management and documentation and some of the newly supported file formats that are available to us using Mastercam 2023. With these new file formats, we are able to do more for import and export than ever before. If we were to open a SolidWorks part file, it's going to bring along 3D annotations, and the 3D annotations are able to be exported as a step file format. If we open up our twin flow fixture for our twin flow impeller signature part series from Mastercam, we see that we have our 3D annotations for drafting entities. If we use Analyze Entry and select one of these annotations, any matching annotation is going to highlight along with it. Now, what's new here is that we have a run add-in for a 3D annotation finder. What this add-in does is it allows you to select any face or solid history feature, and automatically it's going to show us our 3D annotation properties and glow highlight the matching entities along with it. If you select a face that has no 3D annotations, you will get a warning message. Now, let's say we have a large part file with many assemblies and sub-assemblies. With a large part file like this, we are able to do a right-click and create a new folder, and we can drag and drop any assembly we wish inside that folder, grouping together and doing a cleanly neat nesting for our solids inside that folder. Upon moving your cursor over that folder, it will glow highlight what we brought in. If we were to merge in a new part, we're going to bring along the view sheets with it. With view sheets, we can right click and we can create a new group down there in the same folder structure as we did with our solid manager. Right clicking on a view sheet and going under group, we are able to associate a view sheet inside that group folder that was created. Upon bringing in and merging our shaft assembly, notice that the solid folder substructure follows suit with the rest of it, and the rest of the information for that part is now brought in and put together inside that folder. New to Mastercam 2023 is the new Zip2go Wizard. Previously, a Zip2go file is what would be requested or created from a technical support standpoint, where we are able to pull your information and your configuration along with your machine definitions and part that you are working on to open up and pull the information from. Now, with the Zip2go Wizard, we are able to create that information as a content file, a Zip2go, or a zip package. And say we have forgotten to include something or we need to pull information from it, we can do an edit of that, which is significantly easier than changing the dot extension from a Zip2go to a .zip. We can also extract using the Zip2go Wizard. Previously, if you were to receive a content file, you would want to drag and drop the content file inside your workspace of Mastercam 2022, or put it on your desktop and double click on it to automatically unload all the information to its default directory location on your C drive. Now we can do an extract for a content Zip2go or a zip file simply by using the Zip2go Wizard extract. If you had a Zip2go or a zip file, you would have to manually drop that information inside the directories on your C drive. 2D PDF capabilities are a new feature in Mastercam 2023. And if you were on a job, you would be given a dimensional drawing a lot like what we see here. You would either have this drawing on your computer on a separate screen, or you would have it as a piece of paper on your desk. But what we can do now is we can do file merge, and we can take that 2D PDF and bring it inside our workspace in Mastercam. As we have 2 pages for this document, when we merge this file, we were going to get 2 new view sheets. When this information is brought inside Mastercam's workspace, it is brought inside as fully functioning geometry. We are able to edit the lines and arcs. If we were to go wireframe, line endpoint, and move our cursor over these features, notice the new auto cursor highlights that are available to us that we can see right on our screen. If we were to double click on a note, it opens up our note editor, a new feature available to Mastercam 2023. We're going to take a look here at notes and dimension enhancements, and I'm going to show you what is available to us now in Mastercam 2023. Following this demo, we will also take a look at the associative dynamic plane creation and how this is going to help us regen dirty operations significantly faster without having to go back in and adjust our linking parameters. Lastly, we're going to take a look at mesh enhancements. The mesh enhancements that we have available to us now is a much cleaner way to do spline edits and refits of splines if there are too many nodes, so that when we do a loft, we end up with a cleaner surface or a cleaner solid. So now I'm going to jump to Mastercam 2023. And here we're going to take a look at our suspension now. If we were to right click and use Analyze Entity on a note, in the past, if we wanted to make an edit to our note, we would have to go and open up our note editor. Here we see that we can make changes to our wording that we have put in here. If you had previously written this note and you were to make a new one and there was only a minor difference, say instead of 8x, it was a 10x, we can hit Restore Text, bringing all this information back in, and we can simply make our change right here. Also new here, rather than zoom in out, let's just enlarge this, we'll make it bigger. In the past, the period may sometimes be hard to read. There is now a new font type available to us known as the CG or the CJKP, P standing for enhanced period. This is right below the original CJK, and if we hit OK, we see that the period is now changed to a plus. If I close out, and we are now back in our Analyze property, there is now a toggle here for move, and if we were to click on our toggle, we can copy. So if I drag and drop this note, we now have 2 notes that we have now copied. If I double click on a dimension, we get our drafting editing menu. The same thing is now available if we double click on a note. If we double click on our note, we are immediately brought back to our editor for our note. I'm going to hit the green check. Now, align note is also supported. So say we have 2 entities for drafting that we want to align with another feature. I'm going to say end selection, and then I'm going to select the entity I wish to align it to. I'm going to come back over to our manager, and I'm going to say left. And I'm going to hit the green check. Lastly now, let's take a look at how we can move our drafting entities to one location without doing it one by one. If I go transform, project, I can pick more than one entity, and I can say end selection. This is only available to project to a depth, so we cannot do this by plane, and we cannot do this by a surface or solid. So I'm going to select the bottom face of this part, and notice how our dimensions have now relocated. We can do this as a move, or we can do this as a copy. In this case, I'm going to do move, and I'm going to hit the green check. So here we see the new enhancements that are available to us for notes and dimensions. Let's take a look at our Lita viewer. This part is a scan, and it comes in as a mesh. This part is scanned from the Smithsonian and is also available as a signature part series within Mastercam. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at just this leg. And I'm going to project these lines onto the surface, or onto our mesh that we have here. So if I go transform, project, select our lines, say end selection, and then I tell it that I want to go to a surface or a solid and select that mesh, and I hit end selection, they now move onto that mesh surface, and I'm going to hit the green check. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new level. I'm going to turn visibility for the leg off. Now we can take a look at the splines that we have here that we are going to want to do a projection on. So if I were to go surface and take a look at a loft, and I select all our splines and hit the green check, take a look at what we are left with. This is not going to be a clean surface, or say a solid, if we converted this surface to a solid, that we would want to machine on. The reason for this is because of the nodes that are available to us. So if we take a look here, there are a lot to work with. And this would make cleanup very tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go refit spline. I will select all of them. And I'm going to adjust the curve cordial deviation. Rather than keeping the original spline, I'm going to delete it. Before I delete it, let's take a look at our levels. I'm making sure I'm on the correct level. And I'm going to hit the green check. So now, if we go back to edit spline, we take a look at our spline, there are significantly a less number of nodes, which is going to make cleanup a lot easier. What's new here for a cleanup on our edit spline, let me jump back into it, is look at our node points. We have tangencies of preserve and relax. What this means, and allow me to jump over to our demo, is that if we go and edit spline, and I have preserve selected for the tangencies, and I select my spline, and then I select a node and hit delete on my keyboard, notice how the spline makes an adjustment that is preserving its shape between tangencies that are left. If I hit Control Z, bringing back the node that I just deleted, and I choose relax and pick the same point and then delete it, it now creates a new spline shape. In the past, if we wanted to adjust a spline's length, we would have to modify length. Now we can use trimmed entities. In making our selection between our 2 points, we're able to automatically modify the length of our spline, closing and completing the chain. The edit spline feature for preserve and relax will take us from having a loft shape that looks like this to a much more cleaner loft shape that will look like this. Moving on, we're going to take a look at a spacer plate. So for our spacer plate file that's in the signature parts series, we are looking at a fixture plate. If we look in our solids manager for this model, we see that there is no history for any of the holes that are here. If we were to go model prep and under the modify, say find holes, we have the operation ability for hole operations and create a single operation. The entity as the solid has already been selected. If I say hole operation without checking the box for create a single operation, hit the green check, it is automatically going to detect and create the history in our solids for all 71 of these holes. And when I hit OK, notice that all the holes now show up as an individual piece of history inside our solid manager. But say rather than having those as individual ones, I would like them grouped together. So I'm going to go back to our solids and start off with a fresh part. And I'm going to say find holes. I'm going to check the box for create a single operation. And I'm going to hit the green check. Now it's going to detect all 71 of these holes. And if we go back and look at our fixture plate model, now all these holes are grouped together inside our new group assembly folder structure. What's nice about this is, say you have to make a change to an entire group of these holes. We can pick one and double click on it, and we can change the size of the hole. When I hit the green check, we now have a dirty operation that we can just regen. Now, after it's been regened, this is now part of our solid history. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to make a new view sheet. I'm going to leave it as view sheet 1. I'm going to go to levels. And I'm going to turn off visibility. I'm going to create a new level. And I'm going to go file merge. Before I do file merge, let's take a look at our configuration. Under converters or system configuration, if we look at our solid import for our solids, we have the ability to check the boxes for attempt to heal solids and use surface stitching to import solids. Previously in Mastercam, you could only use one or the other. Now we are able to use both of them at the same time, which generates and brings in much more information on our part, losing less information. Now, notice we have a create hole operations. With this box being checked, if we do file merge, and we bring in a STP file, notice that the holes have automatically been found. With this, if we go back to our solids, and we take a look at our solid that is now shown up inside our manager, we have the ability to make the same edits as we did before. And again, we can regen, making that change available to us. Previously, software was required to import some of these parts. We either needed to have the correct file version or the software needed to be installed on the computer. Issues have been fixed for importing the sketch data for if the product wasn't installed or if you didn't have the proper file version. With these enhancements, we are able to increase the data quality that is brought inside Mastercam. So what I'm going to do with this part now is I'm just going to go File, and I'm going to create a Zip2go. In this case, I'm just not going to save it, and I'm going to say Create. We have the ability here for our file types. We see what we have selected by the checkboxes, and it's what's shown down here. If you add additional information, notice that we now have pulled machine sim file along with it. If I say next, we can see our files here. From our manage file selection, we can add files back to this, we can add folders to this, or we can remove all of them. If I say finish, we're now going to be prompted to save this as a mcam content file, a .zip, or a .zip2go. If I were to open our Zip2go Wizard again, and I say I want to edit, I didn't save it there. Sorry about that. Hold on. And now I can edit a Zip2go. If we say open, what's inside that Zip2go's folder structure is now available to us right here. We can remove information from this, we can add file, or we can add folders. If I close out and I have a new part file here, and we have a Zip2go file, and I drag and drop it inside Mastercam, it brings up our extraction menu. We can pick individual parts and extract it as what we have selected, or we can extract all of everything that we have available to us here. In order to do our extraction, we're going to have to tell it the location as to where it's going to go inside our computer.
Lastly, we're going to take a look at dynamic planes and the associativity function when we create new planes using the dynamic genome. First, I'm going to start off with creating a toolpath and a drill operation for the holes we have on the face of our part on the top. I'm going to use Control-Shift and select the solid feature, grabbing all of them. I'm going to say green check. We're going to pick out our tool. And let's go down to linking parameters. In the past, I would use absolute. I would say what my track is going to be, where my top of stock is going to be, and then I would say a depth of an absolute depth of 1/4 inch, since I know the holes are actually cut and extruded at 1/4 inch. In this case, I'm going to say associative, and I'm going to select anywhere on the top face of this part. I'm going to leave depth at incremental, and I'm going to hit apply. We see without closing our toolpath operation, using the apply button, our toolpath is now generated. Let's say that some of these features are not in the correct location and the depth is incorrect. So I'm going to use model prep. I'm going to use push pull. I'm going to select the bottom face, the 4 of these holes, and these are actually supposed to be at 1/2 inch for depth. I'm going to go ahead and drop them. I'm going to hit the green check and notice that our toolpath is now a dirty operation. In the past, we would open this back up and we would look at our linking parameters and we would recalculate our depth for these holes. But since they are done with associativity, they are automatically going to be regenerated. In the past, you could also use an advanced drilling operation as a way to not have to create additional toolpaths. But with the associativity on a top plane, we're simply able to just regen. Same can be said if these holes are not in the correct location. So we'll use modify feature, we're going to move our feature. And I'll double click, grab the whole thing. Let's say this hole's actually supposed to be here. And this one is supposed to be here. Hit the green check. And again, regen our dirty operation. And notice that the toolpath operation follows our geometry without having to go back in, relink any of the wireframe, or readjust our linking parameters. Now, say we create a new plane on our right face, and we are going to do a dynamic milling operation on this oblong shape that we have. When we create a new dynamic plane, and we have it selected at our point, after orienting the genome, in this case the genome is already oriented how I would like it, under the Advanced tab at our settings, previously our checkboxes for associative origin and associative orientation were grayed out and we were not able to use them. In Mastercam 2023, the boxes are automatically checked. Associative origin is going to link the plane and its underlying geometry so that when you change or move the geometry or the origin point, the plane definition is going to be updated. The update is going to include your C-plane, T-plane, G-view, and WCS if they are aligned with that plane or view. And same goes for the associative origin. We're linking the planes and its view so that when you change or move the geometry, it will update to maintain its spatial association with the plane. If you were to go into File Configuration, there is now a new tab for the planes. And we can see here that the plane's work offset conflicts are going to update the plane and all operations that use that plane. We can suppress plane work offset along with other options. Plane association for new planes are always going to associate with the selected geometry. Previously, only planes created from entities would associate to geometry with the origin placed in the center. So now, if we change our plane to our right face, we do a dynamic mill, select the bottom face of this part, we're going to get our tool, and let's take a look at our cut parameters. And lastly, our linking parameters. Retract, feed plane, top of stock are all going to be associative on the top part of our face here. Using the apply button, we see that our toolpath is generated. If our part is modified, so say, let's move it, it's actually supposed to be over here. And the part is actually supposed to be larger. So let's go around. And we make it larger. Hit the green check. Our toolpath is going to be a dirty operation. Now we can regenerate it, and it's automatically going to update. So with the associative plane creation, any modification or change to your part is going to automatically update and follow along, thus saving you the time from having to go through and update and modify your linking parameters.
And with that, I hope you liked the coverage that we had on some general enhancements. There are a lot more than what have been covered just now. If you wish to know more about what is available to you in Mastercam 2023, please don't hesitate to reach out and give us a call. Be happy to talk to you. Thanks, and come again.